Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is DreamFiction and today we will be reading the story Chronicles of the Satan Civil War by Skylinemaster. November 22nd, 1240 AF. Lilith, Underworld. It has been nearly 5 months since my last entry into this journal and I felt that an update was in order. The reason that there have been no entries from June until the present day is that during the defense of Lilith, sections of the old city and downtown have suffered significant damage. My headquarters, the personal residence of Asmodeus, was completely obliterated in the fighting. Due to that fact, my journal was lost in the rubble and was only recently found by one of my junior officers, who promptly returned it to me. As for the events that have happened from then to now, there really haven't been much activity on our front. My army, the 3rd Special Division, has been stationed in Lilith and we haven't had any significant deployments in other sectors of fighting. This is rather surprising to me, as there is heavy fighting to the south of our current location. Old Satan faction forces have made a massive counteroffensive in an effort to reclaim the critical Zabalana highway in August. The Old Satan faction briefly held the junction town of Dashura but was pushed back after heavy fighting from our forces. The Old Satan faction's offensive was halted by the 18th Infantry Division, but now there is a stalemate with regards to fighting in that sector. In the northern sector of operations, the 32nd Cavalry Division, led by Diehauser Belial, captured the White Hill mountain range after weeks of fighting the 2nd Dragon Knights Division. I personally know of the commander Johann Weepel. He is an intelligent but stubborn leader. It was quite a shame that he decided to fight for the Old Satan faction. His stubbornness got his entire army surrounded by the 32nd Cavalry and he decided to fight to the death rather than be captured. I personally don't follow that line of reason, so I don't understand why he decided to do that. As for our western sector, there has been no significant action since our push to the Athos River. This monotony is a welcome change for me. After constant fighting and redeployments to different fronts, it is nice to have a relatively set schedule to look forward to every day. Wake up, greet the citizens of Lilith, oversee my army's continuous training, and interrogate prisoners, among the multitude of daily tasks. Lilith is a rather an inviting city after we rebuilt it. All of these were relatively simple and don't involve me in harm's way. All good things have to come to an end though. Today, I received an assignment that I dread. My army is going to act as scouts for the main force behind us. Our job is to confirm the existence of a massive Old Satan faction field army amassing outside of the Brazilian forest, which is to the southwest of Shabta, a small town right on the edge of the territory that we control. Central Command, by that I mean my superior Falbium Glaciolabolas, assigned me to this task. My orders are clear. If the Old Satan faction force is there, engage them while calling for reinforcements. If not, stay put in Shabta. I am not entirely content with this assignment. I feel my forces should be thrusted into the heavy fighting in the south, but I'm not the leader, so I have to go along with this mission. But this, I will end. Issei Haidu. I put my pen down and closed my journal. It is relatively late and the mission begins tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock sharp. It is time to sleep. I rode on my armored red griffin past the controlled town of Rayups on our way to Shabta. I sat on the saddle of the griffin, turning around to make sure my subordinates were following me. Indeed they are. Kiba, Mitsuda and Motohoma were flying on their griffins, as were the lower-ranking officers. All of the regular troops have their devil wings out and are flying closely behind us. Indeed this is a drawback for our military. The massive anti-teleportation spell enacted by Surziches and Ajuka over our territory is working well. The spell prevents the Old Satan faction from teleporting into our territory, but it also prevents us from teleportating from location to location under our control. In other words, no one can teleport, period. Quite a nuisance as flying is quite an inefficient way of transporting large amounts of troops clandestinely. The Old Satan faction has a similar spell in their territory, preventing us from simply teleporting into their territory as we wish. This is quite humorous and annoying in my opinion. We have magical abilities, but we are fighting like humans do. This is the sad reality of warfare here. General. The city is on fire. My second in command, Kibayudo shouted at me, snapping me out of my thoughts. Indeed, Shabta is on fire. I could see the civilians scrambling in the town, trying to put out the fire. I also see figures on horseback retreating into the forest. They are probably raiders of the main force embarked inside of the forest. Kiba. Take Mitsuda and some troops and secure the perimeter. I shouted at Kiba, who nodded and descended in altitude with his griffin, as did a group of my soldiers. Motohoma. Help any of the civilians. I said to him. General Haidu said to help the civilians. Motohoma shouted to the soldiers behind him. My griffin started to descend in altitude as I stood up in the saddle. I focused on the town, which was in flames. I concentrated and held out my right palm. I'm not the best at water spells, but I'll try. Rampart Typhoon. I said as a water orb materialized in my right hand. The orb started to shake before flying up to the sky, causing clouds to appear. A heavy downpour started over the town. I tried to direct the downpour on the buildings on fire and not of the civilians, as I don't need any civilians complaining to me. The fires started to gradually die down, but the embers could ignite back up at any time, which is not good, considering that Shabta is a town made completely from wood. I jumped from my griffin, opening my wings and landing safely on the ground. I see that the buildings are soaking wet, but that is fine as long as they are still standing. General. Kiba said as he approached me. Kiba. Is the perimeter secured? I asked him, retracting my devil wings. Yes, General. We've secured the perimeter and held back a brief counterattack by the enemy. Something troublesome has come to my attention though. Kiba told me as I raised my eyebrows. What is it? I asked my subordinate. You should come see for yourself. He said as I nodded. He turned around and walked in the other direction, and I followed closely behind him. We walked through the burnt-out town, passing structures that are charred and barely held up by the seams. It will take some time and effort to full rebuild these structures. It is rather ironic in my opinion. We devils have immense powers to destroy, but very few powers to create and build. It is a shame to use show aptitudes of magic for warfare instead of buildings or works for the public good. I felt a nudging of my shoulder, snapping me back to reality. General, we are here. Kiba said slowly as he continued to nudge at my shoulders. Of course. What did you want to show me? I asked. I looked around, seeing the edge of town to my back and the forest to my front. There are numerous dead bodies in front of me, mostly of villagers and the raiders of this village. This is it, General. Kiba said, pointing his sword at a dead body. What about it? I asked, not sure at what he was getting at. The body, clearly male, was dressed in black plate armor and there is a sword by his right hand. This. Kiba said as he picked something up near the body. It can't be. Black feathers. Fallen angel feathers, what are they doing here? I asked aloud. I then turned to Kiba, wondering about what the fallen angels were doing in this war. How far away are we from the border of the fallen angel territory? I asked Kiba. About 35 miles. He said back. Alright, what do you think these fallen angels are doing here? I asked my most trusted subordinate as I felt he contributes valuably in terms of his opinion. I'm not sure. Maybe they are mercenaries allied with the old Satan faction. He said as I pondered the possibility of fallen angel mercenaries. It certainly isn't out of the realm of possibility that old Satan faction has hired fallen angel mercenaries to do their bidding. I know because I've faced some of their Yakai mercenaries when we took the city of Agata. The Yakai that I faced were powerful Kitsune Yakai. They aided the old Satan faction's 7th Shock Troop Division and fought bitterly to the end. They were good soldiers, too bad they were on the opposing side. General, who do you think these fallen angels are under? Kiba asked me. That's a good question. I'd like to know myself. Azazel doesn't seem like the type to order his subordinates into a war that isn't his problem, so I doubt it is him. Kakabiel seems to be the most war-minded out of the leaders of the Grigori, so it might be him. Or we just may be overthinking this entire thing, as maybe it just might be a small rogue detachment of fallen angels, enticed by whatever the old Satan faction offered them. I said to Kiba, not really sure what to make of the fallen angels being here. General. Someone shouted. I turned my head to the source of the voice. It was 2 of my soldiers, standing a few feet away from me. We have a live one. The large one on the right said. I immediately rushed over to the sound of coughing and moaning. The 2 soldiers let me see what they saw, which is a wounded female fallen angel in a pool of blood. General, we found this one when we looked among the bodies. The same soldier told me. I stared down at the body, which is of a black-haired woman. Raise her up. I asked of my soldiers. They picked up the fallen angel by the arms and held her up, so I interrogate this one. What is your name? I asked up as the fallen angel, who has a rather pretty face, scowled at me. Go to hell, I'm not telling you anything. She said, spitting in blood into my eyes and onto my face. I wiped out the blood from my eyes and face with my handkerchief before staring at the fallen angel again. That wasn't the best idea, darling. I said this, grabbing the chin of the fallen angel before slapping the face of the fallen angel. Now, I'll give you another chance, what is your name? I said as I held my right hand on in front of her face, using magic that inflicts pain on any beings, regardless of the species. She screamed before I stopped using the magic, lowering my palm. Ready to talk now, darling? I asked with a smile before I placed my palm in front of her face again. Yes. Stop with the magic. Rainer. My name is Rainer. She screamed out. Who sent you? Kiba said as he brandished his sword to her face. Fuck you, pretty boy. She said. That's it. I may tolerate many things, but vulgar language is not one of them. I immediately placed my palm on her face and applied a much stronger version of the pain spell directly applied to the skin this time. Stop. Stop it. She shouted out as I applied a bit more power into the magic before stopping the magic. Answer the question now? I asked as I retracted my palm. Cacabiel sent us. She said out quickly. I looked at her disgustedly as I heard the name. I hate when I'm right. Take her away. I told my soldiers. You'll die. You'll die. My master will not let me rot away. The fallen angel said, among other obscenities as she was being led away. I thought about bring her back here so I could kill her for insulting us, but I then decided against it. I looked at my subordinate who has a serious look on his face. Well, what do you think? I asked Kiba. I think she was telling the truth. If she was lying, she probably would have showed some facial movement that I would have picked up. Kiba said. Alright, so you think Cacabiel really in this war? Kiba asked me. I don't know. Anything is possible. I said as I looked at the city behind us. Something confused me though. Intelligence rumored of a massive old Satan faction force. Do you think that the intelligence was off and we just stumbled upon something else? I asked Kiba. No. I believe the intelligence just didn't make a distinction. He told me. I guess so. Let's go back into town and interview civilians about what they saw. I said to Kiba as I felt something. It was a suppressed aura, definitely someone or something trying to hide its presence. Just a single aura, though. The person behind it must be very powerful. Say, do you feel that? I asked my subordinate who just looked at me. No, what is it? He asked me with a questioning look. The suppressed aura. It may be the beginning of their counterattack. I told my subordinate. Should I evacuate the civilians? Kiba asked me, to which I smiled. He read my mind. I said to Kiba, who promptly bowed and then left. I sighed before taking out the devil wings from my back to fly. I watched the forest, looking for any signs of trouble. I saw thousands of light spears coming at me from the corner of my eye. I put up a magical barrier and promptly reflected them back towards the origin. As the light spears were shot at me, I put an elemental storm behind the light spears, so ice, fire, and wind strikes were behind the light spears. The combined attack destroyed an area of the forest, causing a cloud of dust to appear, obscuring my vision. Even though I couldn't see through the dust, I felt the aura take to the sky and hover opposite of me. I casted a simple wind spell to cause the dust to fly away, and I could then clearly see the figure. It was no doubt a fallen angel. A powerful one at that. 10 wings, cadre level fallen angel. This should be fun. Cacabiel, I presume. I said to the male figure across me with pointy ears. Ah yes, devil. That is my name. Cacabiel said to me with a smirk. What is the cadre level fallen angel battle maniac doing here, or did I just answer my own question? I said as he smirked even deeper. What do you think it is, stupid devil? We fallen angels are obviously the strongest beings out of all of them. The stupid Shemhazai and cowardly Azazel didn't want us to prove our superiority over you bugs, so I had to do it by myself. He said arrogantly as I rolled my eyes. Alright, so there aren't fallen angel mercenaries. Just a rogue battle maniac that I will kill soon. Alright, so you weren't part of the old Satan faction. That's nice to know. I said joking. Ah. Do you really think someone as high as me would need to ally with those fanatical devils? I'd rather incinerate in the sun before stooping to the devils and helping them. He said as his aura leaked out. Well, know that I know you're not part of the old Satan faction, I still have to eliminate you. I said as I created thousands of earth balls which I sent flying at him. Die. He said as he used the feathers in his wings as bullets, which he sent at my rock balls, destroying them. I rushed in behind the rock balls, setting up one of my most powerful lightning spell in order to damage this guy. I sent rock spears from the ground and launched them at Cacabiel, who simply destroyed them with his feathers. I distracted him by launching earth spears, which he blocked. Is that the best you have? You're a weakling. Cacabiel said, causing me to get angry. Really? I'm the weak one. Come at fight me if you are man enough. I taunted back, creating a magically reinforced earth sword in my hand. I'm more than happy. Cacabiel said, creating a light sword in his hand. We flew at each other, our weapons in hand. Clash. Our weapons hit each other and caused a tremendous amount of energy to be released. I backed up but then flew back at Cacabiel and we clashed again. Wow. This is something I've wanted to do for so long. He said as I noticed a small light dagger materialize in his other hand. You talk too much. I said as I managed to dodge the stab of the spear by breaking away from Cacabiel before smiling. I felt a sufficient amount of aura was charged up, so it is time to use it. Astropi Curvanos. I said as one of my most powerful lightning spells was unleashed. In rapid succession, 1,000 electric snakes bit into Kakabiel's body and released electrical current into him. Kakabiel screamed out as millions of volts rushed through his body. I took this time to make sure he was going to die by launching fist-sized rock balls at him, pelting him to the ground as the snakes just kept on biting his flesh. The screaming eventually died down before completely stopping as the last snake bit his prone body. I felt the aura disappear from his body. He has died. Kakabiel has died. The fallen angel from the Bible. I killed Kakabiel. I smiled at this. I just killed a cadre-level fallen angel, but I saved the town from potential obliteration. Not so bad for a boring assignment, eh? March 7, 12:41 AF. Namit, Underworld. I just got back from the interrogation of Grafia Lucifuge. This followed my own interrogation at the hands of Central Command. My interrogation was mostly Serafal scolding Surziches and I about what we did. Yes, I know that infiltrating old Satan faction territory was stupid, you don't need to hit my head to get that point across. Anyway, we managed to get valuable information from Grafia about the old Satan faction, most notably their chain of command, which is broken, according to what she said. Grafia mentioned that only Satan Leviathan and Asmodeus are running the old Satan faction. I already killed Satan Beelzebub and apparently Satan Lucifer has abandoned ship a long time ago. Satan Lucifer has gone into hiding and is no longer an active part of the old Satan faction war effort. The old Satan faction is stretched thin and it will only take a few well-placed strikes to make them crumble. The most valuable piece of information, however, was the location of a secret base in the northwest of old Satan faction territory. This base houses Unit 666, which is working on a top-secret project called Project Nemesis. Grafia managed to copy documents which show of this group's existence in the Abuamish forest. The purpose of this group is still unknown to us, but with the bits and pieces of information given to us by Grafia, it has something to do with creating the perfect soldier, whatever that means. The deadline for this project is shown to be March 10, which is 3 days from today. On the deadline, one of the Satans is scheduled to inspect the facility. Whatever this project is, we have to stop it from being released to the old Satan faction command, in which case it may alter the course of the war. So on March 10, we have the ability to gather their intelligence, as well as capture or kill one of the remaining Satans, further crippling the abilities of the old Satan faction to wage war. We've fought too long and hard to let this war slip away from us now. I purposed a strike on the facility in the Abuamish forest, and this strike was approved by my superior, Falbium Glaciolabolas. My army, the 3rd Special Division, is to meet up with the 77th Infantry Division, an allied army led by Roger Phoenix. I've heard of Roger Phoenix's numerous exploits as the leader of the 77th, which was aptly named the Phoenix Squadron. His division survived the siege of Ichihel and managed to break out of the besieged city with many civilians. That was a seemingly impossible task that I don't think I would have been able to complete. Anyway, back on topic. I managed to mobilize 100 of my finest troops and we are to meet with 200 members of 77th Infantry Division inside the city of Pmzosian, a town under our control. We are to then march through the Abuamish forest in an effort to locate the facility, which is said to be heavily guarded by the 491st Light Infantry Brigade, which is a fierce fighting force from what I've read. From there, we are supposed to somehow take over the facility and salvage as much information as we can. If one of the Satans is there, great, they die. In order of importance, these are the objectives assigned to me. Capture or kill the visiting Satan. Salvage information about Project Nemesis. Capture essential personnel. I'm not entirely sure how we are supposed to do all of that, so I will consult with Roger Phoenix when we meet. But this, I will end. I shut my diary and put it in my desk drawer. I am going to depart for Pmzosian later today, but right now it is time for a short nap as I've been continuously up for the last 24 hours thinking of possible strategies to discuss with Roger Phoenix. I went into my bed, which I conveniently placed near my desk, and quickly descended into a deep slumber. I woke shortly after 8 hours of sleep and got dressed. I headed out the door and met with my second-in-command, Kibayudo. Udo, have you mobilized the men that I asked you to? I asked him as he stood at attention. Of course, General. But I thought we aren't due to depart until tomorrow morning. He said. He is right, but I thought of something in my sleep. Plans have changed. Send a message to Central Command that we are going to meet with Roger Phoenix today. I have a plan to accomplish the objectives assigned to us. I said as he saluted. Of course, General. They will all be ready to deploy within the hour. He said. Great. My plan can have no delays. We flew to Pmzosian, my group and I. We were escorted by griffins as we approached the town. Ah, Pmzosian. I remember going here as a young man. It was a beautiful city famous for its food, especially its dishes from the human world. The buildings are intact, which surprised me considering the fact that there was some particularly heavy fighting around this area. I remain in awe of the city as we descended. I dismounted my griffin and was saluted by a man in his early 30s, wearing a full suit of armor. The man is a rather handsome man, with slick-back blonde hair and piercing green eyes. "Major General, welcome to Pmzosian," he said. I returned the salute back. "General Phoenix wishes to speak with you, please follow me," he said as we returned back to neutral position. I nodded and followed him as we through the beautiful streets of Pmzosian. We eventually ended at a massive building that has the words Pmzosian Chamber of Commerce on it. I entered the building with my guide, who I learned is Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton. We walked through the heavily guarded building until we came upon the office at the end of the hallway of the second floor. Hamilton stepped in front of me, knocking on the massive wooden door. "Yes," the calm voice said from the other side. "General, it is Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton. I bring with me Major General Haidu," he said. "Send him in." Hamilton opened the door, leading us into his office, which is elaborately decorated with various statues of the Phoenix and Phoenix family. Roger Phoenix is sitting on the other side of his office table. It is everything that I heard the Phoenix family members are. Tall, blonde, and blue-eyed devils. "Major General, it is a pleasure to meet you," he said, standing up from his desk and walking towards me. I walked forward and saluted him, which he returned. He then put his hand out, which I shook. "So, let's get talking about the plan," he said, walking over to the cabinet, pulling out a bottle of liquor. "Drinking man, I can appreciate this." He put the bottle of malt on the table and then put out 2 glasses for us. He poured the liquor onto the glasses as we sat down to discuss the plan. Cheers. Brilliant. Simply brilliant. I finished discussing the plan for taking down the Unit 666 facility with Roger Phoenix. His plan was absolutely flawless from what I could see. Now I know why he graduated the military academy at Shimazia at the top of his class. The plan essentially takes place in multiple stages, each occurring after the one before it is completed. Stage 1, find and encircle the facility, letting no one get in there. Stage 2, take the facility over and kill everyone there. Stage 3, look for any signs of Project Nemesis while disposing of any blood or dead bodies as we use enemy uniforms. Stage 4, ambush the visiting Satan and kill him or her if it is Leviathan. Stage 5, send out a fake distress signal after rigging the facility with explosives. Stage 6, evacuate the facility with the project information in hand. Quite a brilliant plan. My idea was to attack the facility while simultaneously attacking the Satan's convoy from multiple directions. His plan was better though, I admit. Shall you be the one to tell of our plans? Or would you prefer that we jointly address the troops? We will do it together. Alright, so that is the plan. Roger's group will run point while my group secures the perimeter. After that, we will enter the facility and assist in the disposal of the bodies while taking any uniforms. One part of the group will remain in the forest to hold the perimeter, I said, addressing our troops in the center of Pmzosian Square. Any questions? Roger shouted next to me. Sir, no sir. His troops shouted. The distinct red color armor of the 77th tells me that those who shouted were of his command. We'll roll out at 7 o'clock sharp tomorrow, he said to our troops. You are all dismissed now, I said as our troops started shouting war slogans, bringing a smile to my face. We are lurking around the forest now. We found the facility after searching the forest for an hour. Roger's army went in like planned and my group is maintaining the perimeter. My sword is my hand, my eyes scanning the surroundings in front of me. I look at Kiba, his face and armor painted in camouflage. The facility is under our control now. Come in and help us clean up this mess. Roger telepathically messaged me. Alright, groups 1 and 2 move into the facility with Kiba and Imodahoma, Mitsuda, you know what to do, I said as they saluted me. It is now their job to maintain the perimeter and have eyes on the road to the facility. Group 1 and Group 2 followed us as we walked into the clearing where the facility was. The facility, a small manor within walls, was now firmly under our control from what I see. General Haidu, General Phoenix requests your presence. He says it is of the utmost importance. Hamilton said to me and Kiba. Kiba, help with the effort, I said, sending Kiba away. I followed the lieutenant colonel into the manor. The cleanup crew is working fast, there is very little blood from what I can see, and the bodies are being removed from my sight. We came upon a room that Phoenix is standing in. What did you find? I asked Roger Phoenix, who has a manila folder in his hand right now. He seems to be concentrating deeply into the folder, but he then turned to me and handed me the folder. Take a look at this, he said, handing me the folder, which says Project Nemesis Eyes Only on it. I looked at the contents of the folder. I looked at the various notes within the folder. Amazing, they were close to finishing this. What I am looking at is simply astonishing. The folder contains Project Nemesis files, which appear to indicate evidence of reviving dead devils. I believe this was firmly impossible as dead devils go to the dimensional gap to rot, but their work appears to say otherwise. I stared at Roger Phoenix, who has the same expression of shock that I currently have. I think Ajuka would like this. I commented as a soldier ran into the room. The soldier is a very young-looking soldier with amber hair, but there is something in his eyes that makes me believe he is far older than his physical appearance. "What is it, Sanders?" Roger Phoenix asked. "We found a secret lab. There are things trapped inside cages there. You should take a look for yourselves, generals," he said as he saluted us. "Let's take a look." Roger and I said in unison. We followed the young Sanders, who I learned is a sergeant from Roger, to a room where the shelf is moved, revealing a secret staircase behind it. We walked down the stairs and came upon a lab of some sort. There is see-through glass, and I looked to see humans, devils, fallen angels, and monsters chained to tables and cages. Some of them are brutally disfigured and hideous, causing me to turn away in disgust. So they were using these things as test subjects? I asked disgustedly as I stared back at the stairs. "It appears so," Sanders said to me. "Are any of them alive?" Phoenix asked. "It appears 3 out of the 5 you currently see are alive," Sanders replied. "Good, we can see if they know anything. We should prep them for questioning." I couldn't agree more. Phoenix said back to me. "So we did just that. They've been running this place for years now, and it is only now coming to our attention. Great job, Intelligence Division. We couldn't really get any information from them, so we put them out of their misery by executing them." Roger incinerated the bodies, making cleanup that much easier. "Anyway, the base is completely secure and we mopped up the last of the blood. We've distributed captured uniforms and acquired valuable information about Project Nemesis. All we have to do is wait now for them to come. Remember, we are not to fire until I give the signal," I said to my troops back in the forest. I'm with my troops again, securing the perimeter around the facility while overlooking the road to the facility. This is the only road in and out of the facility, so the Satan will most definitely come through the road. I spent the night going over our plan with the troops, and this is just the final pep talk. It is nearly 10 in the morning, but I'm sure that the Satans are going to come soon. From the information I've gathered, the remaining Satans, Katyusha Leviathan and Charlin Asmodeus, are morning people if you understand what I mean. Everything they do is early in the morning, at least that is what it says in their dossiers. The intelligence from our spies indicate that when they travel to inspect military regiments or facilities, they come under extremely heavy guard. Estimates range from 25 guards to 250 guards. But there was a pattern to their visits. Both Satans only visit between the hours of 10 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. So if their history is still relevant, we should be expecting a visit very soon from one of the Satans. Right now I am overlooking the road from the bushes and I hear sounds coming closer. Hoofs, the hoofs of the griffins walking on the road. In front of that sound, there are the sound of boots marching on the road. They're here. I gave the signal to my troops to stay down as I got a pair of binoculars. I focused on the 3 griffins in the mass of troops. I looked at the people on the griffins to see who we are dealing with. I see a Satan. It's Satan Asmodeus. I smirked as he was led into the facility by our troops. He has a small bodyguard of 10 troops, leaving about 90 on the road. Alright, we just need to get him into the facility and then on Roger's signal, we will attack. Any moment now. Any moment. Satan is in the building. I repeat, Satan is in the building. Roger telepathically messaged me. Attack. All forces attack. I shouted, causing an earthquake on the road as the signal for all forces to attack. All of our forces attacked their forces on the road, killing all of them. It was pure slaughter as they were attacked from the sides and front. There were no survivors after 20 seconds. Stop attacking. I ordered as Kibo ordered our forces to search for any survivors. Roger, tell me you got him. I asked my fellow commander. We've done it, Issei, we've killed him. I smiled. 2 down, 1 more to go. May 31st, 12:41 AF. Lilith, Underworld. It's final over. This war is over. We've won it. It has been a calm 2 months since the last update of this journal. Katyusha Leviathan has died in the city of Habram last Friday. She has managed to elude our dragnet for the last 2 months, but she slipped up last week. She attempted to gather old Satan faction forces for one last offensive. We believe her goal was to slip into downtown Lilith and seize many of the top devils to convert back into their ranks, but that plan was foiled. She tried to recruit Nabaros Ronwell, a low-level devil that has ties to my family, and he in turn told me of this. I told military intelligence of this, and they managed to follow back a courier of hers back to the city of Habram in the far west, past the Gope Desert. The courier led to the locations of various lieutenants and the few remaining generals under her command, and eventually to Leviathan herself. She was holed up in residential manor near the downtown of Habram, the manor of a prominent businessman if I remember correctly. Albium approved multiple strikes on the hideouts of the various followers of her, which occurred last week. Only Leviathan, a few of her generals, and 3 lieutenants put up any measurable resistance. The majority immediately surrendered when they were confronted by our strike teams, much to my and headquarters' surprise. In the surrounding of Leviathan's manor, she and her few remaining troops attempted to break out of our barricade of her manor. She managed to inflict heavy casualties to the forces surrounding her, and she briefly made it into Habram's downtown. She required the attention of all of our forces in the area, and as such, all the available armies attacked her group. She was killed after hours of intensive combat, and we've recovered her body to confirm that she is indeed dead. The Tyushal Leviathan's last stand came on the corner of Main Street and 77th Street. Wounded but refusing to give up, she charged at our forces and was immediately cut down by Phoenix fire and Citri water. After her death, the enemy's structure collapsed. Many of the remaining armies surrendered their arms and were taken into detention camps for the time being. Those that chose not to surrender were encircled and destroyed almost immediately, with a few exceptions of the forces holding the cities of Alosar, Hage, Bifrons, and Sieper. The forces in those cities were destroyed within 5 days, once we've redeployed troops to those areas of combat. In all major cities, a sense of normalcy has been restored. The task now is still unclear. Headquarters is still unsure with how to deal with the surrendered troops. Some are pondering executing all of them, others believe in imprisoning them for the rest of their natural lives, and others believe in full clemency for the lower-level troops. Those are the questions for the future to answer. As for me, I'm planning on performing the duties as heir of the Haidu clan once I get demobilized from active duty. I feel that today is my last day as commander of my army, as I'm tasked with meeting with my entire army to give them the news of the disarmament of our army later today. After that, I will meet with Serziches, Seraphol, Ajuka, and Falbium in the Palace of Lucifer, for reasons I am unclear of. I believe that it is time I address my troops. But I will end this entry, and I do believe that this will be the final entry of this journal. I truly hope that whoever finds this will never forget of the sacrifices of those in this war and the cost of the entire generation of young devils. Goodbye. I put down the pen and sighed. I stared out the window, seeing many of troops in the field just outside of my room. I stare at the podium, which I will be standing on shortly. I look down at my watch. 10:34 a.m. It is time. Daddy. My son, Shinji, shouted in the other room. Yes. I said as I rushed into the room where Shinji and my daughter, Asuka, were in. I looked worried, but then I saw the book in my son's hand. It's that book. My journal from the war. How long has it been? 10, no 11 years. Yes, Shinji, I had Shinji immediately after the war ended and he is 11 years old now. Did you really do all of these things in this book? Shinji asked me. I picked up the book and flipped through the pages. It is quite sad that I only have 6 entries in this book. Ah, the memories are coming back. Son, I did do all of this. But that was a long time ago. I said as I gave the book back to my son. What is all this noise this early? My wife's boy said from the doorway. I smiled and turned around to see my wife with a sleepy expression on her face. Riaz. Sorry Riaz, Shinji was just looking through the box of my war materials and found my journal. I said as she smiled at us while coming closer. What did I tell you about rummaging through your dad's stuff? She said at our kids. I'm sorry mommy. They said in unison, especially Asuka with her pouting face. Don't apologize to me, apologize to your father. She said as she gave me a good morning kiss. Sorry, daddy. It is no problem. Now go play outside. I said as they nodded. So, they found your journal. Yes Riaz. So many memories from the war. I remember. After the victory celebration, we started dating and we got married a few months afterward before having Shinji. Indeed Riaz. I smiled as I glanced at the door where my headmaid was standing. I ushered her in and she whispered in my ear. I nodded as she told me Ajuka was coming. Send him in. I said as she went out of the room and reappeared shortly afterward with my fellow Satan in tow. Ajuka, good morning. I said as the maid left. Good morning Issei. Good morning Riaz. Good morning Ajuka. Riaz said as she looked at him with a questioning face. I am here to deliver the pieces to your son. He said as Riaz whispered in my ear, questioning me as to what the pieces he is talking about. You didn't tell her? Ajuka asked me. I thought it was still considered classified information. This is the unveiling, so you could have told her ahead of time. What are you two talking about? Riaz said with a pout. Bees. Ajuka said as he held out a box of red chess pieces. These are pieces that I've created that can replenish our numbers. He said as I looked at Ria's surprised face. During the war, we've recovered information from the old Satan faction that can revive the dead, and Ajuka refined that information. I explained to Rias. Yes. I believe that in order to replenish our numbers, we need to transform other races into devils, and these pieces will be suitable for that purpose. As such, I believe that every young devil heir should have access to such pieces. Ajuka finished. And why didn't you tell me something like this earlier? Rias asked me as a dark aura encircled her body. I looked at Ajuka for words, but he just turned away from me during my time of need. Help a brother out. Yeah, sorry Rias, can't hear you right now, I have to go to work as Satan. I said as I ran out of the room. Phew. I will not have Rias be that angry with me in the morning. It happened once before and I'd rather not deal with it this early in. Alright, managed to get to work safely and in one piece before Rias had a complete meltdown in front of me. I am right now walking the halls of the Palace of the Satans in central Lilith. The Palace of the Satans is an entire campus of buildings where each Satan does their work and the central building, which acts as a meeting hall for all of us. This is the former head of government of the old regime and it is now functioning as the place of our current regime. My building is in the northeast section of the palace. The Palace of Mammon. My duty is to oversee the financial aspects of the underworld and as Mammon, it is my duty to regulate commerce, business, and to ensure fair trade and competition throughout the devil underworld and parts of the human world. Under my watch, the first national bank of the underworld was created, as was the HSE, the Hell Stock Exchange. I see my assistant in front of the building, waiting for me with a briefcase of today's agenda. Good morning Kiba. Good morning director. Kiba said as I shook my head. How many times have I told you, it is Issei. I swear that you did this during the war too. That's right. Kiba Udo is my second in command here, just like he was back in the days of the war. After the war, I became Mammon and needed good people to surround myself with. There were many exceptional people who wanted to become my right-hand man, and Kiba was the most exceptional out of all of them. So I took him in as my assistant and he has been absolutely essential to my duty as Satan Mammon. What is on the agenda? I asked him as he gave me my daily morning drink, something the humans refer to as tea. A meeting with the treasury over the proposed minting of new currency, a lunch with the head of the Belial family, and a dinner with Satan Lucifer and his wife later tonight. I nodded as the events were known. Ah, Kiba, I wouldn't know what to do without you. Alright, let's get this day over with. I'm exhausted. The meeting was boring and tedious, just like the other meetings with the treasury. Ihauser Belial's house, I must say, has some of the best chefs throughout the underworld, and that is saying something. We had a beautiful lunch at his lakeside chateau near Lake Gope. We discussed various topics, and the lunch was very good, if not great. Now begins the dinner I am having with Satan Lucifer and Graphia, or if I am not being formal, my brother-in-law and his wife. I am approaching the gates of Surzich's mansion in Lucifid, where he told me he had something very important to discuss with me. So important that it must be in person at the comfort of his house and that it couldn't be done at the Satan's palace. Rudolph. I smiled at Surzich's loyal butler. He is always so kind to me, even when I was a little boy. Master Surzich's is waiting. Then let's not keep him waiting any longer, shall we? I followed behind Rudolph to Surzich's working room before Rudolph turned around and waited in front of the room. After you sir. He said as he opened the door for me. Surprise. Ah, they shouldn't have. A surprise birthday party for me. Very everyone is here. Surzich's, Graphia, Ajuka, Serafal, Falbium, Kiba, and of course, Riaz, who is holding the giant birthday cake for me in the center of the room. Thanks Riaz, I love you so much. I stare down at troops in front of me, looking back at me in silence, as I pull out the piece of paper that I wrote my speech out of my pocket of my dress uniform. On second thought, I don't need the pre-planned speech. Inspiration comes from the heart, not the mind. I slipped the speech back into the pocket and took a deep breath before speaking. Soldiers, today we celebrate not the end of the conflict, but the beginning of a new era. Today, we walk the path we've created by our own hands. We've lost people we knew, people we were friends with. I said as I trailed over, thinking about everyone I've lost during this war. Don't let their sacrifice be forgotten. Make no mistake, their sacrifice helped purchase peace. Peace not for us, but for our children's children, and their children's children. Let's not ever forget what they did, but remember to set an eye towards the future. The future of the underworld is bright for us. The underworld views you as heroes, and that is what you truly are. It is your time, lead, prosper, soar, and become the future of the underworld. I said as everyone started clapping. A tear trickled down one of my eyes as they started clapping for me. We've been through so much together, it will be hard to leave them. I walked into the chamber room with Ajuka, Serafal, Falbium, and Surziches sitting around a circular glass table. There is an empty seat, which I sat in. Everyone is staring at me with intense expressions. How would you like to be a Satan? Surziches said as I raised my eyebrows. Interesting. We've all become Satans. Ajuka added. I felt you were a very competent leader during the course of the war and this is your reward afterward. Falbium stated. We can both be Satans, is Tan. I winced at Serafal's outburst but then thought about the offer. All of you became rulers of the underworld. What about the possible backlash from the families? I asked back. They've unanimously approved us to be rulers of the underworld. As such, we've all forfeited our rights as heirs to our clans and adopted the names of the former rulers as our own. Ajuka said as I nodded. So why do you need me? There were only 4 Satans and you 4 have filled those positions. I asked as Falbium stared at me. We are all always in need of qualified capable people and you are most certainly capable. I thought about it and nodded. So, which Satan am I? I asked as Surziches put his hand on his chin to think. Mammon. Issei Mammon. I think I like the sound of that. When do I start as Issei Mammon? Thanks for watching this video. Part 1 is now over. If you like this video please subscribe and like this video. I hope I see you in the next video.